Hi, my name is Amber and welcome back to my channel, Books and Beaches. So today I come to you with my November monthly wrap up. Now, November wasn't a bad month for reading. I actually got 6 books in. Not my greatest month by any means, but I find myself reflecting on that number of books, and I think it's so hard, and this is an interesting thought, and you can let me know in the comments below like your thoughts. But I think there's such like a strive to read more, especially when I'm sharing the books that I have read, that I'm like, oh, I only read 6, but I'm like, 6 is still a really good number. And I read some decent books, and I actually had a lot going on in November, like event-wise and things I did with my friends and family. So 6 is amazing for that. And I think I find myself like, not that I feel like I'm competing with anyone else, but you hear about how many different books people are reading. I was in a live the other day. I was not and I think I remember hearing about someone read like over 40 books in a month, and I was like, that's like half my year, like, oh my gosh. And so I don't know, let me know your thoughts below. Do you hold yourself to like weird standards when it comes to reading books? I'm still really excited because I've already read over 100 books this year, and that's an amazing year for me. And I'm just loving reading. And so I think as I reflect here, I just have to remind myself, like, it's okay to only read 6 books in a month. Like, that's still a really good number. I should be proud of myself if I pick up any books at all. So let's jump in and take a look at what I read in the month of November. The very first one, I can't remember if I started in November or if I was just finishing up, but that was The Marsh King's Daughter by Karen Dion, I believe. Yep, because I'm going to be picking up another one by her very soon here. I gave this one a 3. There was kind of 2 timelines. You had a current timeline where this woman finds out her father has escaped from prison, and he was in prison because of the other timeline that you get where he actually kidnapped her mother as a teenager, took her into the marsh. They lived in kind of a remote cabin, ended up having their daughter, and obviously the daughter didn't know any better, and eventually someone finds them, and he abducted this girl. So I found myself wanting more from the current timeline of this woman trying to track down her father that has escaped from prison, where we got a lot more of the time in the marsh timeline. And while I like more of like an outdoorsy book, it was just maybe a little too much for me. So I gave that one a 3. I don't think it's bad. I am still looking forward to picking up The Wicked Sister. That's part of my 5-star predictions that I'm doing with Lindsay and Sarah for Booklist Thursday. But yeah, this one was just a simple 3-star for me. The next one I picked up, and that was like one of my most anticipated reads of the year. I pre-ordered it, and that was It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. This is the continuation of Lily's story with Ryle. So in book 1, and I don't want to spoil anything, I know it's a very popular book, but in book 1, Lily is married, or ends up meeting, oh no, she's married to Ryle, and this is Atlas's story. Sorry, my bad. And there's a lot of stuff that goes down in book 1. I really, really enjoyed book 1. Book 1, I'm almost positive I gave 5 stars to, and in this book, I enjoyed it, but it was only a 4 for me. 4 is still a really, really good rating, but I definitely liked book 1 better. Now, I love this cover. This is like a cover screaming to me. So I don't want to give too much away about this one if you haven't read the first book yet. It was good. I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I picked it up, but I think number 1 will still be my favorite. And number 1, if I didn't say, it ends with us. So sorry about that. Alrighty, the third book I picked up, and this one was basically the only book that I ended up picking up for Historathon, even though I did challenge myself. I never published a video about it, but I did challenge myself to pick a book out for every single prompt, and that was super fun. So I enjoyed what the 3 girls did for Historathon, but I just didn't participate. But I did read the group read, and that is Ellen Marie Wiseman's The Lost Girls of Willowbrook. I actually really enjoyed this. And this was the live that I watched the other night because the girls kind of did a wrap up about it. And I enjoyed this book for what it was. And I think that's, you have to go in knowing it's fiction. I know it's based off of some true stories. And yes, I kind of went down a rabbit hole then of Googling what Willowbrook really was. But it was interesting listening to the live and the thoughts that people had about it. But I liked it. Basically, I bent a page. There's two twins, and one of the girls she thought her sister had died. Turns out her sister is in this home for girls called Willowbrook, and she goes missing. They get a call. She realizes her sister isn't dead like she thought. She goes to look for her sister at Willowbrook. They think she is her sister because they don't realize they're twins, and she kind of gets stuck there, and things go from there. It's a very messy way of describing this book. I liked it. I gave it a 4. I know a lot of people in the live that Amanda from the Curly Reader hosted had some different opinions than mine. I just took it as the basis of fiction. And was there some things that I questioned along the way? Sure. But I didn't have as much of a reaction as some of the other people did. So I'm going to leave it at that. But it is one of those books that is going to probably make you Google things after the fact. All right, next up was a book that I'm kind of looking into reading a lot more of Taylor Jenkins Reid's backlist. So I picked up Forever Interrupted, and this was okay. I gave it a 3. It is a book about a woman named Elsie, and she basically has like this whirlwind romance with her husband named Ben. And within 6 months, they end up getting married. And a week after they've gotten married, Ben ends up getting killed in a bicycle accident. Happens in like the very first chapter, so I'm not spoiling anything. And the whole book is about, they go back and forth between, you're getting the timeline of how they fell in love and then the current timeline of her dealing with her grief. And I don't think this is a bad book by any means. I just don't think it's a book for me because I don't understand like marriage, because I'm not married. I've never been married. And so it wasn't the book for me because that's not a piece of grief or anything or a relationship that I've ever dealt with. So I still like Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's not going to stop me from reading anything by her, but it's just, it was a 3. It was okay. So the next book I finished, I am not going to give you my rating. I'm not even going to give you a review on. But that was one of the books that I am reading for my 5-star predictions for Booklist Thursday with Lindsay and Sarah. And that is Aline, however you pronounce it. I know everybody says it differently. I really should look it up one of these days. Hilderbrand's Winter in Paradise. So I will talk more about this at the end of December when it comes to our 5-star wrap up. But this was the next book that I finished this month. And then the last and final book that I finished in the month of November was Secluded Cabin Sleep 6 by Lisa Unger. This was a book that I tried so hard to get all the different copies on NetGalley, and I just kept getting denied, which is totally fine. But I picked it up then in an Amazon sale, and actually this is one that I forgot to put in my haul that I just did the other day. This one is basically same idea of kind of like an isolated thriller for the most part. There are some different characters involved, but 3 different couples go to a cabin in the woods in, I think it's Florida or Georgia. I know the book starts in Florida, but they might be in Georgia in the actual cabin. And a lot of the characters have a lot of different secrets. And as the story starts to process, those start to unravel. And I don't want to give too much other than that away because I feel like that builds right into the story. It actually started off at Christmas. So all of a sudden I was like, wait, is this like a wintry isolated thriller? And it's not, because then they actually take the trip 6 months later. But I enjoyed it. I gave it a 4. Is it the best thriller I've ever read in my life? No, but there were definitely things that I couldn't predict. And some things I was like, okay, I kind of guessed that. But I wasn't sure how everything was going to come about and be connected. So I am not giving great details about this book, but I feel like this is one of those thrillers that you have to go in not knowing a lot about the characters. I don't even think I read the full flap because I just didn't want to know too much going in. So I liked it. I would definitely recommend it to other people. And yeah, like I said, I gave it a 4. The other book that I started in November, but I'll talk about in my December wrap up when that comes around, I did start Hide by Kirsten White. And that's like kind of another like isolated game-based thriller in an amusement park. So I will talk about that one in my December wrap up. So those are all 6 books that I read in the month of November. Like I said, I am slowly starting to accept that any sort of reading that I do in a month is good reading. So whether or not I actually like the books is a whole nother story. But what did you read in the month of November? Anything that I should add to my list? I obviously have plenty of books that I need to get to coming up, but I am always adding more books to my ever-growing TBR. As always, if you like this video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.